Psalm 122 calls people to pray for the peace of Israel and to seek her good. The chapter is sometimes used as a biblical argument for supporting the modern Israel state politically. But is this a proper reading of the text? To Christians, Jerusalem is no ordinary city. Of all the locations around the globe, it was the place that God decreed for his people to worship for him. At least 3 times a year, Jews were to worship the Lord in this centrally located city. Even in Jesus' day, it was correct to say that Jerusalem is the place where people ought to worship. So David wrote Psalm 122 to express the joy of going to give thanks in the name of the Lord. So Jerusalem has always been a symbol of the place where God dwells. And the physical location also played an important role in God's redemptive work. 1,000 years after David wrote Psalm 122, the people of Jerusalem rejected Jesus. In Mark 12, Jesus told a parable about how God would take his vineyard away from the Jews and give it to those who would respect his son. And in Matthew 24, he prophesied that the temple would be abandoned, desecrated, and destroyed. God's plan is not to rebuild this earthly temple. In John 4:21, Jesus was adamant. The time for people to worship in Jerusalem was about to end. So what changed? Well, to understand, we need to look at the Bible in 2 parts. The Old Testament is the story of his Old Covenant, or his promise to be God mainly to the ancient Jews. In the Old Covenant, Israelites came into Jerusalem to worship God. But in the New Testament, God's people left Jerusalem to tell the whole world the good news of God's salvation. In 1 Timothy 2 verse 1, God commands that prayers and intercessions be made for all people. So you should pray for the people in Jerusalem. Christians, Jews, Muslims, and atheists. You should seek the good of Jerusalem, and Rome, and New York, and wherever people live. Psalm 122 is about the Church of Jesus Christ. Derek Kidner is right. What Jerusalem is to the Israelites, the church is to the Christian. So how can you honor Psalm 122? First, by going to church. Second, by praying for the church. And third, by seeking the good of the church. Psalm 122 is a celebration of God's precious bride. It describes how you should think about the church, and it anticipates the new Jerusalem. The Apostle John describes it for us in Revelation 21. Then I saw a new heaven and a new earth. For the first heaven and the first earth had passed away, and the sea was no more. And I saw the holy city, New Jerusalem, coming down out of heaven from God, prepared as a bride adorned for her husband. This video is based on an article written by William Bookestein called Should Christians Pray for Jerusalem?, published by Reformation 21. If you want to read the full article, the link is in the description.